Alex Mimnall. Today I'll be discussing trades and sports. Now, trade is very vital to society. It happens every day, and without it, economies would suffer, most likely fail. In economics, there is no such thing as a bad trade. There are no winners and losers in a trade. Both sides mutually benefit. When most people hear this concept, they think it only applies to things such as international trade. However, today I'm here to tell you that it does apply to trades in sports. Now, how could this be possible? Anytime a trade in sports happens, you hear players, you hear fans, and you hear analysts always broadcasting their opinions, saying that Team A took advantage of Team B, or vice versa, or this is just an all-around bad trade. This perhaps applies to something that happened to the Atlanta Braves in late December 2002, when General Manager John Shearholtz inexplicably traded all-star pitcher Kevin Millwood to the Philadelphia Phillies for backup catcher Johnny Estrada, sending the baseball world into a frenzy, and leaving baseball fans with one question on their mind: why? Why did the Braves just trade one of their best players to the hated rival Phillies for a backup catcher? Most people thought at the time this was one of the worst trades in MLB history. However, the economic concept holds true, and today I'm here to explain this was not a bad trade, and this mutually benefited both sides. In the fall of 2002, Kevin Millwood was having a great season. He just helped lead the Atlanta Braves to their 11th straight division title, while posting the 10th best ERA in the major leagues. But he was traded for Johnny Estrada, a 26-year-old catcher in the Philadelphia Phillies organization whose career had stalled out in AAA and wasn't going to be playing baseball much longer. There were three possible explanations for why this trade happened. Number one, Kevin Millwood was not as good as perceived. Number two, Johnny Estrada was better than perceived. Or number three, the most likely scenario, these players were traded for reasons other than their baseball abilities. So it was for a financial reason. But if it were for financial reason, why were the Braves only able to net a backup catcher for one of their best pitchers? This is because players must be treated like stocks on the New York Stock Exchange. At least this is how it works in the mind of general managers. And that players are viewed as assets, or little steady streams of income for their business that provide revenue. As an asset, a player is worth to the general manager and the team as the revenue minus their employment costs. Employment costs being equipment, any training, any medical bills, and the biggest one of all, their salary. As an asset, players can be compared easily. Even though, as a player, Kevin Millwood was much superior to Johnny Estrada. But as an asset, you can see this is where the trade starts to take place. Going back to Kevin Millwood, the player. He's coming off his second best season in the majors, but he only has 1 year left on his contract. The year before paid him $3.1 million. And now, with his performance, he was expected to take a big pay raise, somewhere between $8.5 and $10.5 million. That's exactly what he got when he was traded to Philadelphia. Shortly after being traded to the Phillies, Johnny Estrada signed a 1 year, $9.9 million extension with Philadelphia. Now, Millwood as an asset. In his 5 seasons with the Atlanta Braves, Kevin Millwood was only generating a net revenue of $1.82 million, which is not a very high number if you're supposed to be one of the best players on the team. And with his performance as of late, his salary is about to rise exponentially. It did exactly that. And so, Braves saw him as a negative asset, and that he was about to start losing the team money, and he was going to become a financial burden for the team. That's exactly what happened. In his first season with Philadelphia, Kevin Millwood generated a net revenue of negative $5.07 million. This is not just a fluke. This happened in the next 3 years, where Millwood generated a net revenue of negative $4.783 million. So that is why Millwood was only able to net a backup catcher. He was a negative asset to the team, and he was harming them financially. The Braves would have just cut him and let him go. They were able to somehow get a catcher for him. So why was this trade made? Well, in the eyes of the Phillies, Kevin Millwood was valued much higher than Johnny Estrada. Kevin Millwood, although he was a negative asset, could have been a much more serviceable player than Estrada, who was just taking up space in the minor leagues. For the Atlanta Braves, Millwood was just a negative asset they wanted to get rid of. They were able to somehow get a catcher who ended up being serviceable for 2 years, even made an all-star appearance. So, who won this trade? Who lost? Well, there are no winners and losers. Much like international trade, countries and teams must value resources differently. For example, in a third world country, they value technology such as eye products much higher than we do in the United States. If we were to trade, say, an iPad to a third world country for 15 t-shirts, many people would go insane. But in reality, we have a lot of eye products, and they're not worth as much to us as they are to those other countries. So when you hear, next time a big trade goes down, when you hear analysts talking about how one team won, one team lost, just remember that in economics there are no winners or losers. It is always a mutual beneficial.
All right, Laura Markham.
Do you think that there are any wasted resources involved in the trade in relation to money or in relation to the kind of overall spirit of the team and spirit of the defense?
I feel like the Braves could have gotten more out of it, more than just a single player. As for Philadelphia, they, I think, wasted money by just keeping him on their roster because he was a negative asset on the team. In that way, I feel like it was wasteful because they could have gotten more, and Philadelphia could have seen that he was taking.
Do you think the Cardinals made a mistake with how Will go?
No.
They didn't. Why not?
He was declining in his career. He was about to get a huge raise, which he ended up getting with the Angels. And because of that, the Cardinals need to spend their resources in other places, such as a pitcher, or maybe filling out the rest of the infield and the outfield. And because of that, I feel like letting go of him was able to save them a lot of money and still be a competitive team.
Okay. What is the cost and benefits of getting rid of a player who's like excess baggage?
So the benefits being that you don't have to, I guess, drag along that baggage or drag along their salary. If the Braves had kept Millwood's salary, they wouldn't be able to keep a couple of the guys on their team or go after free agents. Benefits being the player performance. If they felt that his performance outweighed that negative asset, then they would have kept him. The Phillies obviously did, so they decided to